Hello, everybody. I'm John Locke, and I'd like to welcome you to the LockeInYourSuccess.com Trading Performance Podcast, where it's all about real traders, real problems, and real coaching. Listen up and enjoy the segment.
What specific challenge you're having? So do you want to just put that in your own words for now?
Yeah, I observed that often when I want to enter a trade or start a trade, I think that when I enter this trade, that the market will turn into after that into the opposite direction, and sometimes it's mentally very challenging. Sometimes.
So just to interrupt you there for a minute, do you think it will turn in the opposite direction, or do you think it might turn in the opposite direction? Those are two different challenges, right?
Yeah, maybe it will. Yeah,
it will.
I think it's a harder.
Right. So is that accurate? You're going to put a trade on, it's definitely going to turn in the opposite direction. It will turn in the opposite direction.
No, and the thing is that when I put it on and locked my, let's say it's an easy trade with 1-to-1 risk reward, and I put it on with my limits for the losses and for the profits. After that, it's okay. That can be a loser, that can be a winner. It's not more. It's not a big thing. But
right.
only right before enter the trade, there's something in my mind which says, "Hey, are you sure that the market will be in your direction?" Or
right. And what is the appropriate answer for that?
The appropriate answer is that I don't know it.
You don't know, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things we have to go over, and again, this is within yourself, right? So you kind of have to talk yourself down for that. I think you know mentally that there's a risk involved in trading, and you know mentally, logically, that if you enter a trade, that trade can go against you. And it sounds like you're okay if it does go against you once you're involved in the trade. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, it's okay because it's only small position size, so it's not that big deal if it runs against me.
Right. So first of all, observation is very important here, right? You understand yourself, so you know that when you put a trade on, you're going to have this thought, and thought downloads are good for this too, right? And you think, and you may even want to explore this a little bit deeper. And next time you go to put on a trade, just say, okay, so what am I thinking about this trade, and actually writing it down. And then what we have is what's factual and what's not, right? So we have this here: the market will turn in the opposite direction. Well, that's not true. That's not factual. The market might turn in the opposite direction.
Okay.
It doesn't have a higher probability of one way or the other. And you can do all the technical analysis you want in the world. You can only be so sure. And part of that is just saying to myself, well, I've done my analysis, and this is what I think should happen. I have no way of knowing whether that's going to happen or not. And do you? No, you have no way of knowing whether it's going to happen or not. So the market might go against me. And then when the market goes against you, for some of the people, that's still going to be a problem. I don't know if that's a problem for you or not, but the reality is that is the reality of trading. Anytime you enter a position, anytime you're in a position, anytime you adjust a position or exit position, you have the risk of the market going against you. And it's just a part of reality, and that is what trading is. And just because something goes against you right away doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing either, right? Because sometimes things can go against you initially and they look bad and they turn out well because of where the market's going to go.
Yeah, it depends on the trade, but yes, some trades they are.
Yeah, well, some trades have a tight, how resilient. Some trades have a tight stop loss, but that comes into the functional part of trading on how much variance and how much room for moving around that you want to allow within your position. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, on a conscious level, I think I am aware of a lot of things, but maybe on the unconscious level, or I don't know, it's some kind of.
Well, it's a normal
embrace the uncertainty. It's something that you put on your trading performance.
Have you ever done a performance, like a play or a demonstration or something, or a presentation for work or anything like that?
Yeah, I did.
Notice when you do something like that, before you start it, how does it feel?
Yeah, it depends. No.
If it's a really important presentation,
Yeah, it's something that what I'm going through. It's not you're nervous, but at the end,
right?
it's very normal.
Right. Then once you start going and you get rolling, you kind of feel a little bit better about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have that same pattern with the trading,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
and it's the exact same thing when you look at it, right? So
Mhm.
I'm just showing you another way to look at this, right? So you're going in, you have this important presentation to do, and your brain starts like freaking out,
Yeah.
and you have to mentally talk yourself down, right?
Yeah, I think on a presentation, it's not as like here as trading. It's a little bit different, but yeah, the pattern is the same, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the pattern's the same, and it's also normal.
Mhm.
Okay, so a big part of this is how am I interpreting these feelings? So you're going to come into a trade or a performance or whatever, and you're going to have a certain of sensations in your body, and you have the ability to interpret what those sensations mean. Right now, you're interpreting the sensations as a problem, maybe because you are imagining at some point, right? So thought downloads help with this. If we go down and we write things down about how we're feeling and so forth and what we're thinking about, but you're imagining probably, I'm guessing, okay, and you can tell me, what are you imagining? Because in order for you to have these feelings and sensations at some level, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're thinking something. What are you thinking?
Yeah, maybe it's at the end it's something doing wrong because I entered the trade at the wrong time or something like that.
Right, but so what if you enter the trade at the wrong time? You're going to enter trades at the wrong time. It's part of doing business,
Yeah,
right? Why is entering the trade at the wrong time really a problem?
yeah, maybe I want to be more successful. Don't want to lose. Don't want to be right and things like that.
Well, absolutely. We all want to win. We all not want to lose. We want to win. We want to be
Mm.
right. But we've chosen to do something where that outcome is uncertain.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of reminding yourself that,
Mm.
right? Because what happens, and happens with a ton of traders, right? There's nothing unusual about this.
Mhm.
Anything you're experiencing, you talk to anybody on this webinar, and they're going to have that same feeling. You talk to me, I have that same feeling. I
Mhm.
come in, and part of the issue might be understanding that it's normal, right? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to put this trade on, and say I put $1 million trade on. I don't know what size you're dealing with, but sometimes I deal with $1 million trades. I'm going to put $1 million trade on. I have an exit loss trigger of, I don't know, $250,000, $250,000. There's going to be a little bit of anxiety there, right? I don't know if the trade's going to win, but I might convince myself that I have to win, right? I might convince myself that I have to win this trade. And if I do that, then I'm not going to trade well.
No.
Again, that tends to be normal, but part of that comes from the awareness that, hey, look, I'm feeling really anxious about entering this trade, and that's normal. It's funny, the human brain, okay? The human brain craves certainty. And if you can't be sure you're going to win, it decides that it wants to be certain you're going to lose because that's going to prevent you from entering the trade, right?
Okay, or avoid pain or something like that.
Well, it even more than avoiding pain is certainty.
Okay.
Okay. Like let's just talk about an event that might happen. Say something bad is going to happen in your life and you know it's going to be bad, but you don't really know the extent to which it will be bad. You're going to have a certain feelings that revolve around that and sensations. And you can even relate this to a trade when a trade's going on and it's bad, but you don't know how bad it's going to be. But once you define how bad it's going to be, the brain calms down and you tend to accept it.
Okay.
Have you ever had that experience?
No.
You've never had that experience. Okay, well, you've been a lucky man because nothing really bad's happened that you've been unknown with. but it, if and it doesn't necessarily have to be with a trade, but maybe you think somebody's sick, you don't know how sick they're going to be, or another person, or whatever. This would be a normal thing. When the brain understands something bad's going to happen and it's well defined, and you know it's going to happen and you accept it, it brings the anxiety level down because you just know you're going to go through it. Even if you've never experienced this before, you can take this from other people.
I experienced bad things, but I didn't observe that the mind calms down when it's at this point.
It calms down once you understand how bad they are, right? So somebody tells you something that's really bad, okay? Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, geez, right? But you don't know how the extent of badness it is. And you kind of get all worked up over it. And then they tell you what it is and you go, oh, okay. All right, I can deal with that.
Okay.
That's what the brain does. So you're coming in, you're telling it something bad's going to happen. You're probably not defining it well to yourself. So one of the things or mind hacks that I do, and I think I've talked about this in the past, is when I enter a trade, I already take my stop loss or max loss out of it. In other words, I have $10,000 in my account. I'm going to put on this trade with an exit loss trigger of $250. I'm going to say, I do not have $10,000 in my account now. I have $9,500 in my account now, which is twice my exit loss trigger, which I know it would be very unusual, very rare for me to exceed 2 exit loss triggers. So I now have $9,500. My worst loss, my loss is already experienced. Now I can go in and I can trade.
Okay, but you didn't focus on the loss, but you say, okay, it's
already gone.
Done. How much can I win in this trade?
Yeah. Basically, if I come out and my account value is over $9,500, I've won. Right. It sets up a couple of things. So first of all, it calms my mind down a little bit. I already know. In other words, it's costing me it's potentially costing me $500 to enter this trade. And if I come out with better than that, then I'm great. And if I come out with, and I have 10,500 at the end, that's wonderful. I have 11,000 at the end, that's wonderful. I have 9,700 at the end, that's wonderful. I mean, it's better if I have 10,500, right? But my thing is just a mind hack to take my mind off of it so that it calms itself down.
Okay.
That's where I would head with your thoughts.
And that is what I have for you today. If you have any questions or comments or anything else you'd like to see in the next Trading Performance podcast, please list that in the comments and I'll personally answer your questions and comments for you. Also, I'd love to encourage you to come on over to LockInYourSuccess.com. That's LOCKE in yoursuccess.com, and check out our Trading Performance and Pro memberships, where you can find the tools you need to become a much more effective trader, regardless of the type of trading you do. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you on the next Trading Performance podcast.